Hi, welcome to the Read With Me series, an introduction to Indian art, part 1, textbook in fine arts for class 11 NCRT. Post Mauryan trends in Indian art and architecture, chapter 4. From the 2nd century BCE onwards, various rulers established their control over the vast Mauryan empire. The Shungas, Kanvas, Kushanas, and Guptas in the north and parts of central India, the Satavahanas, Ikshvakus, Abhiras, Vakataks in southern and western India. Incidentally, the period of the 2nd century BCE also marked the rise of the main Brahmanical sects such as Vaishnavas and Shaivas. There are numerous sites dating back to the 2nd century BCE in India. Some of the prominent examples of the finest sculpture are found at Vidisha, Barhut, Bodh Gaya, Jagayapeta, Mathura, Khandagiri, Udayagiri, Odisha, Bhaja near Pune, and Pavani near Nagpur, Maharashtra. Barhut. Barhut sculptures are tall like images of Yaksha and Yakshini in the Mauryan period. Modeling of the sculptural volume is in low reliefs maintaining linearity. Images stick to the picture plane. In the relief panels depicting narratives, illusion of three-dimensionality is shown with a tilted perspective. Clarity in the narrative is enhanced by selecting main events. At Barhut, narrative panels are shown with fewer characters, but as the time progresses, apart from the main character in the story, others also start appearing in the picture space. At times, more than one event at geographical place is clubbed in the picture space, or only a single main event is depicted in the pictorial space. Availability of the space is utilized to the maximum by the sculptures. Folded hands in the narrative as well as the single figures of the yakshas and yakshinis are shown flat clinging to the chest, but in some cases, especially in later times, the hands are shown with the natural projection against the chest. Such examples show how artisans who were working at a collective level had to rescued by the deer is also shown along with the king pointing a figure at the deer. According to the story, the man promised the deer after his rescue that he would not disclose his identity to anybody. But when the king makes a proclamation of reward for disclosing the identity of the deer, he turns hostile and takes the king to the same jungle where he had seen the deer. Such Jataka stories became part of stupa decoration. Interestingly, with the rise in the construction of stupas in various parts of the country, regional stylistic variations also began to emerge. One main characteristic in all the male images of 1st 2nd century BCE is the knotted headgear. In many sculptures, it is very consistent. Some of the sculptures found at Barhut are displayed in Indian Museum, Kolkata. Sanchi. The next phase of sculptural development at Sanchi Stupa 1, Mathura, and Vengi in Andhra Pradesh is noteworthy in the stylistic progression. Stupa 1 at Sanchi has upper as well as lower Pradakshina or circumambulatory path. It has 4 beautifully decorated toranas depicting various events from the life of Buddha and Jatakas. Figure compositions are in high relief, filling up the entire space. Depiction of posture gets naturalistic and there is no stiffness in the body. Heads have considerable projection in the picture space. Rigidity in the contour get reduced and images are given movement. Narration gets elaborated. Carving techniques appear more advanced than Barhut. Symbol continues to be used representing the Buddha and the Manushi Buddhas or the past Buddhas. According to the textual tradition, there are 24 Buddhas, but only the first one, Dipankar, and the last 6 are pictorially represented. At Sanchi Stupa 1, narratives get more elaborated. However, the depiction of the dream episode remains very simple, showing the reclining image of the queen and the elephant at the top. The historical narratives, such as the siege of Kushinara, Buddha's visit to Kapilavastu, visit of Ashoka to the Ram Grama Stupa, are carved with considerable details. In Mathura, images of this period bear the same quality but are different in the depiction of physiognomic details. Mathura, Sarnath, and Gandhara school. The 1st century CE onwards, Gandhara, now in Pakistan, Mathura in northern India, and Vengi in Andhra Pradesh emerged as important centers of art production. Buddha in the symbolic form got a human form in Mathura and Gandhara. The sculptural tradition in Gandhara had the confluence of Bactria, Parthia, and the local Gandhara tradition. The local sculptural tradition at Mathura became so strong that the tradition spread to other parts of northern India. The best example in this regard is the stupa sculpture found at Sanghol in the Punjab. The Buddha image at Mathura is modelled on the lines of earlier Yaksha images, whereas in Gandhara it has Hellenistic features. Images of Vaishnava, mainly Vishnu and his various forms, and Shaiva, mainly the Lingas and Mukhalingas faith, are also found at Mathura, but Buddhist images are found in large numbers. It may be noted that the images of Vishnu and Shiva are represented by their ayudhas. There is boldness in carving the large images. The volume of the image is projected out of the picture plane. The faces are round and smiling. Heaviness in the sculptural volume is reduced to relaxed flesh. The garments of the body are clearly visible and they cover the left shoulder. Images of the Buddha, Yakshas, Yakshinis, Shaivite and Vaishnavite deities and portrait statues are profusely sculptured. In the 2nd century CE, images in Mathura get sensual. Rotundity increases, they become fleshier. The 3rd century CE, the treatment of sculptural volume changes by reducing the extreme fleshiness movement in the posture is shown by increasing distances between the two legs as well as by using bends in the body posture. Softness in the surface continues to get refined. The trend continues in the 4th century CE, but in the late 4th century CE, the massiveness and fleshiness is reduced further and the flesh becomes more tightened. The volume of the drapery also gets reduced, and in the 5th and 6th century CE, the drapery is integrated into the sculptural mass. Transparent quality in the robes of Buddha images is evident. In this period, two important schools of sculpture in northern India are worth noting. The traditional center, Mathura, remained the main art production site, whereas Sarnath and Kusambi also emerged as important centers of art production. Many Buddha images in Sarnath have plain transparent drapery covering both shoulders. Halo around the head has very little ornamentation, whereas the Mathura Buddha images continue to depict folds of the drapery in the Buddha images, and the halo around the head is profusely decorated. One can visit the museums at Mathura, Sarnath, Varanasi, New Delhi, Chennai, Amaravati, etc. to study the features of early sculpture. Early temples. While construction of stupas continued, Brahmanical temples and images of gods also started getting constructed. Often temples were decorated with the images of gods. Myths mentioned in the Puranas became the part of narrative representation of the Brahmanical religion. Each temple had a principal image of God. The shrine of the temple were of three kinds: one Sandhara temple without Pradakshinapada, Nirandhara temple with Pradakshinapada, and Sarvatabhadra, which can be accessed from all sides. Some of the important temple sites of this period are Deoghar in Uttar Pradesh, Iram Nachna Kutara, and Udayagiri near Vidisha in Madhya Pradesh. These temples are simple structures consisting of veranda, a hall, and a shrine at the rear. Among the important stupa sites outside the Gangetic Valley is Devni Mori in Gujarat. In the subsequent centuries, sculptures had little variation, while slender images with transparent drapery remained a dominant aesthetic sensibility. Shiva Temple, Nachna Kutara, Madhya Pradesh in 5th century CE. Buddhist monuments of South India. Vengi in Andhra Pradesh has many stupa sites like Jagayapeta, Amravati, Battiprolu, Nagarjunakonda, Goli, etc. Amravati has a Mahachaitya and had many sculptures which are now preserved in Chennai Museum. Amravati Site Museum, National Museum, New Delhi, and the British Museum, London. Like the Sanchi Stupa, the Amravati Stupa also has a Pradakshinapada enclosed within a Vedika on which many narrative sculptures are depicted. The Domical Stupa structure is covered with relief stupa sculptural slabs, which is a unique feature. The Torana of the Amravati Stupa has disappeared over a period of time. Events from the life of Buddha and the Jataka stories are depicted. Though in the Amravati Stupa there is an evidence of construction activity in the 3rd century BCE, it was the best developed in 1st and 2nd centuries CE. Like Sanchi, the early phase is devoid of Buddha images, but during the later phases in the 2nd and 3rd century CE, the Buddha images are carved on the drum slabs and at many other places. Interior space in the composition is created by different postures of the figures such as semi-back, back, profile, frontal, semi-frontal, side, etc. Sculptural form in this area is characterized by intense emotions. Figures are slender, have a lot of movement, bodies are shown with three bends, that is Tribhanga, and the sculptural composition is more complex than at Sanchi. Linearity becomes flexible, dynamic movement breaks the static compactness of form. The idea of creating three-dimensional space in the relief sculpture is devised by using pronounced volume, angular bodies, and complex overlapping. These are the carving on outer wall of Stupa Amravati, Stupa drum slab in Amravati 2nd century CE. However, absolute attention has been paid to the clarity of form despite its size and role in the narratives. Narratives are profusely depicted, which include events from the life of the Buddha and the Jataka stories. There are a number of Jataka scenes that have not been completely identified. In the depiction of the birth event, the queen is shown reclining on a bed surrounded by female attendants, and a small sized elephant is carved on the upper frame of the composition, showing the dream of Queen Maya Devi. In another relief, 4 events related to the birth of the Buddha are shown. These represent varied ways of depicting the narratives. The animated movements in the figures get reduced in the sculptures of Nagarjuna Konda and Goli in the 3rd century CE. Even within the relatively low relief volume than in the Amravati sculpture, artists at Nagarjuna Konda and Goli managed to create the effect of protruding surface of the body, which is suggestive in nature and looks very integral. Independent Buddha images are also found at Amravati, Nagarjuna Konda and Guntapalli. Guntapalli is a rock-cut cave site near Elluru. Small apsidal and circular chaitya halls have been excavated belonging to the 2nd century BCE. The other important sites where rock-cut stupas have been excavated is Anakapalli near Vishakhapatnam. In Karnataka, Sannati is the largest stupa site excavated so far. It also has a stupa like the one in Amravati, decorated with sculptural relief. Panel Nagarjuna Konda. Construction of large number of stupas does not mean that there were no structured temples or viharas or chaityas. We do get the evidences, but no structured chaitya or vihara survived. Among the important structured viharas mentioned may be made of the Sanchi apsidal chaitya structure, that is Temple 18, which is a simple shrine temple having front pillars and a hall at the back. Similar structured temples at Guntapalli are also worth mentioning. Along with the images of the Buddha, other Buddhist images of bodhisattvas like Avalokiteshvara, Padmapani, Vajrapani, Amitabha and Maitreya Buddha started getting sculptured. However, with the rise of Vajrayana Buddhism, many bodhisattva images were added as a part of the personified representations of certain virtues or qualities as propagated by the Buddhist religious principles for the welfare of the masses. Cave tradition in Western India. In Western India, many Buddhist caves dating back to the 2nd century BCE onwards have been excavated. Mainly 3 architectural types were executed. 1 apsidal vault roof chaitya halls found at Ajanta, Pitalkhora, Bhaja. 2 apsidal vault roof pillarless hall found at Tana, Nandasur, and 3 flat roofed quadrangular hall with a circular chamber at the back found at Kondivite. The front of the chaitya hall is dominated by motif of a semicircular chaitya arch with an open front which has a wooden facade, and in some cases there is no dominating chaitya arch window such as found at Kondivite. In all the chaitya caves, a stupa at the back is common. These are the unfinished Chaitya cave at Kanheri, Chaitya hall at Karla. In the 1st century BCE, some modifications were made to the standard plan of the apsidal vault roof variety, where the hall becomes rectangular like Ajanta Cave 9 with a stone screen wall as facade. It is also found at Betsa, Nashik, Karla and Kanheri. Many cave sites have the standard first type of Chaitya halls in the subsequent period. In Karla, the biggest rock-cut Chaitya hall was excavated. The cave consists of an open courtyard with 2 pillars, a stone screen wall to protect from rain, a veranda, a stone screen wall as facade, and apsidal vault roof Chaitya hall with pillars and a stupa at the back. Karla Chaitya hall is decorated with human and animal figures. They are heavy in their execution and move in the picture space. Further elaboration over the Karla Chaitya hall plan is observed at Kanheri cave number 3. Though the cave interior was not fully finished, it shows how the carving progressed from time to time. Subsequently, the quadrangular flat-roofed variety became the most preferred design and is extensively found at many places. Nashik cave number 3. The viharas are excavated in all the cave sites. The plan of the vihara consists of a veranda, a hall and cells around the wall of the hall. Some of the important vihara caves are Ajanta cave number 12, Betsa cave number 11, Nashik cave number 3, 10 and 17. Many of the early Vihara caves are carved with interior decorative motif like Chaitya arches and the Vedika designs over the cell door of the cave. Facade designs in Nashik cave number 3, 10, 17 became a distinct achievement. The Vihara caves at Nashik were excavated with a front pillar carved with Ghata base and Ghata capital with a human figure. One such Vihara cave was also excavated at Junnar, which is popularly known as Ganesh Leni, because an image of Ganesha belonging to a later period was installed in it. Later, a stupa was added at the back of the hall of the Vihara and it became a Chaitya Vihara. This is a Chaitya, cave number 12, Bhaja. Junnar cave in Pune, Maharashtra. The stupas in the 4th and 5th century CE have Buddha images attached. Junnar has the largest cave excavation, more than 200 caves around the hills of the town, where the Kanheri in Mumbai has 108 excavated cave. The most important sites are Ajanta, Pitalkhora, Ellora, Nashik, Bhaja, Junnar, Karla, Kanheri. Ajanta, Ellora and Kanheri continues to flourish. Earlier, it was presumed that because of the absence of the Buddha image, the cave were considered belonging to the orthodox faith of Buddhism, that is the Theravadins. But with the discovery of the Konkan Maurya inscription mentioning the Saka era 322, that is 400 CE, it is now satisfactorily proved that the cave activity in Western Deccan was an ongoing process, and many caves have been carved with Buddha images where the image does not exist anymore. It may also be noted that many caves are converted into modern Hindu shrines and have become popular worshipping sites. Ajanta. The most famous cave site is Ajanta. It is located in Aurangabad district of Maharashtra state. Ajanta has 29 caves. It has 4 Chaitya cave datable to earlier phase, that is the 2nd and 1st century BCE, and the later phase, that is the 5th century. It has large Chaitya viharas and is decorated with sculptures and paintings. Ajanta is the only surviving example of painting of the 1st century BCE and the 5th century CE. The caves at Ajanta, as well as in the Western Deccan in general, have no precise chronology because of the lack of non-dated inscription. Cave number 10, 9, 12 and 13 belong to the early phase, and cave number 11, 15, 6 upper and lower, and cave number 7 belongs to the phase earlier than the late 5th century CE. The rest of the caves belong to the late 5th century CE to early 6th century CE. The Chaitya cave number 19 and 26 are elaborately carved. Their facade is decorated with the Buddha and Bodhisattva images. They are of apsidal vault roof variety. Cave number 26 is very big, and the entire interior hall is carved with a variety of Buddha images, the biggest one being the Mahaparinibbana image. View of Ajanta caves. The rest of the caves are Vihara Chaitya caves. They consist of pillared veranda, a pillared hall and cells. Along the walls, the back wall has a main Buddha shrine. Sculptural panel in the veranda of cave number 2 Ajanta. Painting of the Buddha, Yashodhara and Rahul, cave number 17 of Ajanta. Shrine images at Ajanta are grand in size. Some of the Vihara caves are unfinished, such as cave number 5, 14, 23, 24, 28 and 29. Among the important patrons at Ajanta were Varahadeva, the Prime Minister of Vakataka King, Harisena Upendra Gupta, the patron of the cave number 17 to 20, the local king of the region and the feudatory of the Vakataka King. Harisena Buddha Bhadra, patron of cave number 26, Mathura Dasa, patron of cave number 4. Many paintings have survived in cave number 1, 2, 16 and 17. Paintings have a lot of typological variations. Outward projections are used in the Ajanta paintings of the 5th century CE. Lines are clearly defined and are very rhythmic. Body color gets merged with the outer line, creating the effect of volume. The figures are heavy like sculptures of Western India. The caves of the early phase also have paintings, especially cave number 9 and 10. Paintings in cave number 10 are an afterthought, as is evident from the plastering over the early inscription inside the cave. On the other hand, the paintings in cave number 9 are part of the pre-planning. They belong to the 1st century BCE. The figures are drawn with a heavy proportion and arranged in picture space in a linear way. Lines are sharp, colors are limited. Figures in these caves are painted with considerable naturalism and there is no over stylization. Apsara cave number 17 in Ajanta. Events are grouped together according to the geographical location. Tiered, horizontally arranged figures appear as a convenient choice of the artisans. Separation of geographic locations has been indicated by using outward architectural bands. Figures appears like the Sanchi sculptures which indicate how the lithic and painting tradition were progressing simultaneously. The frontal knot of the headgear of the figure follow the same pattern as that of the sculptures. However, there are a few different patterns of headgear. The second phase of the paintings can be studied from the images of Buddha painted on the walls and pillars of cave number 10 and 9. These Buddha figures are different from the figures painted in the 5th century CE. Such developments in painting need to be understood in the context of the religious requirement. Cave excavate. Painted ceiling cave number 10 in Ajanta. Cave excavation and paintings were simultaneous process and dating of the painting follows the date of the cave excavations. Painting cave number 9 in Ajanta. The next stage of development is observed mainly in the paintings of cave number 16, 17, 1 and 2. However, it does not mean that the pictures had not been painted in any other cave. In fact, almost in all the finished excavation, paintings have been painted, but very few have survived. Paintings have typological variation in these caves. It may also have observed that various skin colors are used in the paintings such as brown, yellowish brown, greenish, yellow, ochre, etc., which represent a multicolored population. Paintings of cave number 16 and 17 have a precise and elegantly painted quality. They do not bear the ponderous volume of the sculpture in the cave. Movement in the figures are very rhythmic. Brown, thick, dark lines are used as contour. Lines are forceful and full of energy. Attempts are also made to give highlight in the figural composition. The paintings of cave number 1 and 2 are very orderly and naturalistic, well integrated with the sculptures in the cave. Architectural settings is simple and the arrangement of the figure is delineated in the circular form to create three-dimensionality and the special effects. Half-closed, elongated eyes are employed. Different guilds of artisans seems to have worked on the paintings of these caves, which can be inferred from their typological and stylistic variation. Naturalistic postures and unexaggerated facial features are used as exceptional types. The themes of paintings are the events from the life of Buddha, the Jatakas and Avadanas. Some paintings such as Simhala Avadana, Mahajanaka Jataka and Vidhur Pundita Jataka cover the entire wall of the cave. Part of Mahajanaka Jataka panel, cave number 1, Ajanta. It is worth noting that the Chandata Jataka had been painted in the early cave number 10 with many details and events grouped according to their geographical location. Events that happened in the jungle and events that happened in the palace are separated by their location. In cave number 10, Chandata faithfully follows the Pali text, whereas the one painted in cave number 17 is very different. In one of the events, the Bodhisattva Chandata is shown removing his own tusk and giving it to the hunter, Sonutar. The other important painting are the famous Padmapani and Vajrapani in cave number 1. However, it may be observed that the images of Padmapani and Vajrapani are very common in Ajanta, but the best preserved painting are in cave number 1. Some figures in cave number 2 have affiliation with the Vengi sculptures, and at the same time the influence of the Vidarbha sculptural tradition is also observed in the delineation of some sculptures. The subsequent development of the painting tradition has been discussed in next chapter. Ellora, another important cave site located in Aurangabad district is Ellora. Courtyard Kailash Temple, cave number 16 at Ellora. Seated Buddha Chaitya Hall, cave number 10 at Ellora. It is located 100 km from Ajanta and has 32 Buddhist, Brahmanical and Jain cave. It is a unique art historical site in the country as it has monasteries associated with the three religions dating from the 5th century CE onwards to the 11th century CE. It is also unique in terms of stylistic eclecticism, that is confluence of many styles at one place. The cave of Ellora and Aurangabad show the ongoing differences between the two religions, Buddhism and Brahmanical. There are 12 Buddhist caves having many images belonging to Vajrayana Buddhism like Tara, Mahamayuri, Akshobhaya, Avalokiteshvara, Maitreya, Abhitaba, etc. Buddhist caves are big in size and are of single, double and triple stories. Their pillars are massive. Ajanta also has excavated double-storied cave, but at Ellora, the triple story is a unique achievement. All the caves were plastered and painted, but nothing visible is left. The shrine Buddha images are big in size. They are generally guarded by the images of Padmapani and Vajrapani. Cave number 12, which is a triple story excavation, has images of Tara, Avalokiteshwara, Manushi Buddhas, and the images of Vairochana, Akshobhya, Ratna Sambhava, Amitabha, Amogha Siddhi, Vajrastava, and Vajraraja. On the other hand, the only double-story cave of the Brahmanical faith is cave number 14. Pillar designs grow from the Buddhist cave, and when they reach the Jain cave belonging to the 9th century, they become very ornate and the decorative forms gain heavy protrusion. Gajasur Shiva cave number 15 at Ellora. The Brahmanical cave number 13 to 28 have many sculptures. Many caves are dedicated to Shaivism, but the images of both Shiva and Vishnu and their various forms according to Puranic narrative are depicted. Among the Shaivite themes, Ravana shaking Mount Kailash, Anthaka Survadha, Kalyana Sundara are profusely depicted, whereas among the Vaishnavite themes, the different avatars of Vishnu are depicted. The sculptures at Ellora are monumental and have protruding volumes that create deep recession in the picture space. The images are heavy and shown considerable sophistication in the handling of the sculptural volume. Various guilds at Ellora came from different places like Vidarbha, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu and carved the sculptures. Thereby, it is the most diverse site in India in terms of the sculptural style. Cave number 16 is known as Kailash Leni. A rock-cut temple has been carved out of a single rock, a unique achievement of the artisan which will be discussed in the next chapter. Among the important Shaivite caves are cave number 29 and cave number 21. The plan of cave number 29 is almost like that of the main cave at Elephanta. The sculptural quality of cave number 29, 21, 17, 14 and 16 is amazing for its monumentality and vigorous movement in the picture space. Elephanta Caves and other sites. The Elephanta Caves, located near Mumbai, were originally a Buddhist site which was later dominated by the Shaivite faith. It is contemporary with Ellora and its sculptures show slenderness in the body with stark light and dark effect. The other noteworthy cave site is Bhag, located near Indore in Madhya Pradesh. Entrance to Elephanta Caves. The tradition of rock-cut caves continued in the Deccan and they are found not only in Maharashtra but also in Karnataka, mainly at Badami and Aiholi, executed under the patronage of the Chalukyas, in Andhra Pradesh in the area of Vijayawada, and in Tamil Nadu mainly at Mahabalipuram under the patronage of the Pallavas. The post-6th century development of arts history in the country depended more on political patronage than the collective public patronage of the early historic period. Mention may also be made of the terracotta figurines that are found at many places all over the country. They show a parallel tradition with the religious lithic sculptures as well as independent local tradition. Many terracotta figures of various sizes are found which show their popularity. They are toys, religious figurines as well as figurines made for healing purposes as part of the belief system. Cave tradition in eastern India. Like in western India, Buddhist caves have also been excavated in eastern India, mainly in the coastal regions of Andhra Pradesh and in Odisha. One of the main sites in Andhra Pradesh is Guntapalli in Eluru district. The caves have been excavated in the hills along with the structured monasteries. Perhaps it is among the very unique sites where the structured stupas, viharas and the caves are excavated at one place. The Guntapalli Chaitya cave is circular with stupa in the circular hall and a Chaitya arch carved at the entrance. The cave is relatively small when compared to the caves in western India. A number of vihara caves have been excavated. Udayagiri Khandagiri caves near Bhubaneswar. Details of the veranda at Udayagiri Khandagiri. A number of vihara caves have been excavated. The main vihara caves, despite the small dimensions, have been decorated with chaitya arches on the exterior. They are rectangular with vaulted roof and are carved single-storied or double-storied without a large central hall. These excavations date back to the 2nd century BCE. There are some excavations which were added in the subsequent century, but all are of the vihara type. Apart from Guntapalli, the other important cave site is Rampa Erampallam, which has very moderate small excavations, but there are rock cut stupas on the hillock. At Anakapalli near Vishakhapatnam, caves were excavated and a huge rock cut stupa was carved out of the hillock during the 4th-5th century CE. It is a unique site as it has the biggest rock cut stupas in this country. Many votive rock cut stupas all around the hillock have also been excavated. The rock cut cave traditions also existed in Odisha. The earliest example are the Udayagiri Khandagiri caves in the vicinity of Bhuvaneshwar. These caves are scattered and have inscriptions of Kharavela kings. According to the inscriptions, the caves were meant for Jain monks. There are numerous single cell excavations. Some have been carved in huge independent boulders and given the shape of animals. The big caves include a cave with a pillared veranda with cells at the back. The upper part of the cells is decorated with a series of chaitya arches and narratives that still continue in the folklore of the region. The figures in this cave are voluminous, move freely in the picture space, and are an excellent example of qualitative carving. Some caves in this complex were excavated later, sometime in the 8th-9th century CE. Stupa 1 at Sanchi. Sanchi, about 50 km from Bhopal, the capital of Madhya Pradesh, is a World Heritage Site. Along with other relatively small stupas, there are 3 main stupas at Sanchi. Stupa 1 is presumed to have the relics of the Buddha. Stupa 2, the relics of 10 less famous Arhat belonging to 3 different generations. Their names are found on the relic casket. Stupa 3 has the relics of Sariputta and Mahamaugalyana. Stupa 1, known for their carvings on its gateways, is one of the finest examples of stupa architecture. Originally, the stupa was a small brick structure which expanded over a period and was covered with stone, Vedika and the Torana gateways. The Ashokan lion capital pillar with an inscription is found on the southern side of the stupa, indicating how Sanchi became a center of monastic and artistic activities. The south gateway was made first, followed by others. The Pradikshina Patha around the stupa is covered with the Vedika. There is also the upper Pradikshina Patha, which is unique to this site. The 4 gateways are decorated profusely with sculptures. Buddha is shown symbolically as an empty throne, feet, chhatra, stupas, etc. Toranas are constructed in all 4 directions. Their stylistic differences indicate their possible chronology from the 1st century BCE onwards. Though Stupa 1 is the oldest stupa, the carving of images on the Vedika of Stupa 2 are earlier than those on Stupa 1. Jatakas also become an important part of the narratives in stupa. The figures at Sanchi, despite being small in dimension, show considerable mastery of sculpting. Their physiognomic treatment of the body show both the depth and dimension, which are very naturalistic. There are guardian images on pillars and the Shalbhanjika, lady holding the branch of a tree. Sculptures are remarkable in their treatment of volume. The rigidity of the earlier sculpture of Stupa 2 is no more there. Each torana consists of 2 vertical pillars and 3 horizontal bars on the top. Each horizontal bar is decorated with different sculptural themes on the front as well as at the back. Supporting the extension of the lowermost horizontal bar from below are the images of Shalbhanjikas. Seated Buddha, Katra Mount at Madura. Madura was a great center for making sculptures during the early historic period, and many images have been found here. A large number of images dating back to the Kushana period is from Madura. A distinct way of sculpting practiced at Madura makes the images found here different from those at other cities from those at other centers in the country. The image of the Buddha from the Khatra Mount belongs to the 2nd century CE. It represents the Buddha with 2 Bodhisattva attendants. The Buddha is seated in Padmasana, cross-folded legs, and right hand is in the Abhaya Mudra, raised a little above the shoulder level, whereas the left hand is placed on the left thigh. The Ushanisha, that is hair knot, is shown with the vertical raised projection. Madura sculptures from this period are made with a light volume having fleshy body. The shoulders are broad. The Sangati garment covers only one shoulder and has been made prominently visible, covering the left hand. Whereas, while covering the torso, the independent volume of the garment is reduced to the body torso. The Buddha is seated on a lion throne. The attendant figures are identified as images of the Padmapani and Vajrapani bodhisattvas, as one hold a lotus and the other a Vajra. They wear crowns and are on either side of the Buddha. The halo around the head of the Buddha is very large and is decorated with a simple geometric motif. There are two flying figures placed diagonally above the halo. They bear a lot of movement in the picture space. Flexibility replaces the earlier rigidity in the images, giving them a more earthy looks. Curves of the body are as delicately carved. The upright posture of the Buddha image creates movement in space. The face is round with fleshy cheeks. The bulge of the belly is sculpted with controlled musculature. It may be noted that there are numerous examples of sculptures from the Kushana period at Mathura, but this image is representative and is important for the understanding of the development of the Buddha image in the subsequent period. Buddha head at Taxila. The Buddha head from Taxila in the Gandhara region, now in Pakistan, dates back to the 2nd century CE and belongs to the Kushana period. The image shows hybridized pictorial conventions that developed during the Gandhara period. It has Greco-Roman elements in the treatment of sculpture. The Buddha head has typical Hellenistic elements that have grown over a period of time. The curly hair of Buddha is thick, having a covered layer of sharp and linear stalks over the head. The forehead plane is large, having protruding eyeballs. The eyes are half closed and the face and cheeks are not round like the images found in other parts of India. There is a certain amount of heaviness in the figure of the Gandhara region. The ears are elongated, especially the earlobe. The treatment of the form bears linearity and the outlines are sharp. The surface is smooth. The images is very expressive. The interplay of light and dark is given considerable attention by using the curving and protruding planes of the eye socket and the planes of the nose. The expression of calmness is the center point of attraction. Modeling of the face enhances the naturalism of three-dimensionality. Assimilating various traits of Achaemenian, Parthian and Bactrian tradition into the local tradition is a hallmark of Gandhara style. The Gandhara images have physiognomic features of the Greco-Roman tradition, but they display a very distinct way of treating physiognomic detail that are not completely Greco-Roman. The source of the development of Buddha images as well as others has its genesis in its peculiar geopolitical conditions. It may also be observed that the northwestern part of India, which is now Pakistan, always had continuous habitation from historic times. It continued in the historical period as well. A large number of images have been found in the Gandhara region. They consist of narratives of the life of Buddha, narrations from the Jataka stories, and the Buddha and Bodhisattva images. Seated Buddha at Sarnath. This image of the Buddha from Sarnath, belonging to the late 5th century CE, is housed in the site museum at Sarnath. It has been made in Chunar sandstone. The Buddha is shown seated on a throne in the Padmasana. It represents the Dharmachakra Parvartana, as can be seen from the figures on the throne. The panel below the throne depicts a chakra in the center and a deer on the either side with his disciples. Thus, it is a representation of the historical event of Dhammachakra Parvartana, or the preaching of the Dhamma. This Buddha image is a fine example of the Sarnath school of sculpture. The body is slender and well proportioned but slightly elongated. The outlines are delicate, very rhythmic. Folded legs are expanded in order to create a visual balance in the picture space. Drapery clings to the body and is transparent to create the effect of integrated volume. The face is round, the eyes are half closed, the lower lip is protruding, and the roundness of the cheek has reduced as compared to the earlier images from Kushana period at Mathura. The hands are shown in Dhammachakra Parvartana Mudra, placed just below the chest. The neck is slightly elongated with the two incised lines indicating fold. The Ushanisha has circular curled hair. The aim of the sculpture in ancient India had always been to represent Buddha as a great human being who achieved Nibbana, that is, cessation of anger and hate. The back of the throne is profusely decorated with different motifs of flower and creepers placed in a concentric circle. The central part of the halo is plain without any decoration. It makes the halo visually impressive. Decoration in halo and the back of the throne indicates the artisan sensitivity. Sarnath Buddha image of this period show considerable softness in the treatment of the surface and volume. Transparent drapery becomes part of the physical body. Such refinement comes over a period of time, and these feature continues in the subsequent period. There are many other Buddha images in the standing position, from Sarnath, having features like transparent drapery, subtle movement, carved separately and placed about the memorial stupa around the Dharmarajika stupa. These images are now preserved in the Sarnath Museum. They are either single or with the attendant figures of Bodhisattva, Padmapani and Vajrapani. Padmapani Bodhisattva, Ajanta Cave number 1. This painting on the back wall of the interior hall before the shrine antechamber in cave number 1 at Ajanta date back to the late 5th century. The Bodhisattva is holding a Padma, has large shoulder and has 3 bends in the body, creating a movement in the picture space. The modeling is soft, outlines are merged with the body volume, creating the effect of three-dimensionality. The figure of the Bodhisattva is wearing a big crown in which detailed rendering is visible. The head is slightly bent to the left. The eyes are half closed and are slightly elongated. The nose is sharp and straight. Light color all over the projected planes of the face is aimed at creating an effect of three-dimensionality. The beaded necklace too has similar features. Broad and expanded shoulders create heaviness in the body. The torso is relatively round. Lines are delicate, rhythmic and define the contours of the body. The right hand is holding a lotus and the left hand is extended to the space. The Bodhisattva is surrounded by small figures. The foreshortened right hand of the Bodhisattva makes the image more solid and effectively dense. The thread over the torso is shown with the fine spiral lines indicating its dimension. Each and every part of the body is given equal attention. Light red, brown, green and blue colors are used. Nose projection, incised end of lips with lower lip projection and small chin contribute to the overall effect of solidity in the figure composition. The paintings in cave number 1 are of good quality and are better preserved. One can observe certain typological and stylistic variations in the painting of Ajanta, indicating different guilds of artisans working on the cave painting at Ajanta over the century. On the other side of the image, Vajrapani Bodhisattva has been painted. He holds a Vajra in his right hand and wears a crown. This image also bears the same pictorial qualities as the Padmapani. Cave number 1 has many interesting paintings of Buddhist themes such as Mahajanak Jataka, Umag Jataka, etc. The Mahajanak Jataka is painted on the entire wall side and is the biggest narrative painting. It may be observed that the painting of Padmapani and Vajrapani and the Bodhisattvas are painted as shrine guardians. Such iconographic arrangement is also observed in other caves of Ajanta. However, Padmapani and Vajrapani in cave number 1 are among the best survived paintings of Ajanta. These are the paintings of Mahajanak Jataka, Ajanta cave number 1. Mara Vijaya, Ajanta cave number 26. The theme of Mara Vijaya has been painted in the caves of Ajanta. This is the only sculptural representation sculptured on the right wall of cave number 26. It is sculptured near the colossal Buddha image of Mahaparinibbana. The panel shows the image of Buddha in the center surrounded by Mara's army along with his daughter. The event is a part of the enlightenment. It is a personification of the commotion of mind which the Buddha went through at the time of enlightenment. Mara represents desire. According to the narrative, there is a dialogue between Buddha and Mara, and the Buddha is shown with his right hand indicating towards the earth as a witness to his generosity. This relief sculptural panel is highly animated and shows a very matured sculptural style at Ajanta. The composition is very complex with high voluminous images. Their complex arrangement in the picture space is highly dynamic and generates considerable movement. The figures on the right show Mara coming with his army consisting of various kinds of people, including some with grotesque animal faces. The dancing figures at the lower base with the musicians have forward bulging waist, and one of the dancing figure has expanded her hand in the dancing posture with an angular frontal look. On the left lower end, the image of Mara is shown contemplating how to disturb Siddhartha, the name of the Buddha before enlightenment. The army of Mara is shown marching towards the Buddha in the first half of the panel, whereas the lower half of the panel shows the departing army of Mara giving him adorations. The centrally placed Buddha is in Padmasana and a tree at the back is shown by dense leaf. Some of the facial features of the Mara army has tacit characters of the some of the facial features of the Mara army has tacit characters of the sculptures from Vidarbha. The artisans at Ajanta worked in guilds and their stylistic affiliations can be traced by identifying such stylistic features. This is the largest sculptural panel at Ajanta, though there are several big images in the caves of Ajanta and especially located in the shrine antechamber as well as facade walls. Such a complex arrangement of figure is unique. On the other hand, painted panels exhibit such complexities in their arrangement. A similar kind of arrangement of dancing figures in a panel is also observed at the Aurangabad caves. Mahesh Murthy Elephanta. The image of Mahesh Murthy at Elephanta dates back to the early 6th century CE. It is located in the main cave shrine. In the tradition of Western Deccan sculpting, it is one of the best examples of qualitative achievement in sculpting images in rock-cut cave. The image is large in size. The central head is the main Shiva figure, whereas the other two visible heads are of Bhairava and Uma. The central face is in high relief, having a round face, thick lips and heavy eyelids. The lower lip is prominently protruded, showing a very different characteristics. The all-inclusive aspect of Shiva is exhibited in this sculpture by soft modeling, smooth surface and large face. The face of Shiva Bhairava is clearly shown in profile in anger with bulging eyes and moustache. The other face showing feminine characters is of Uma, who is the consort of Shiva. One of the Shilpa text mentioned 5 integrated faces of Shiva, and this image, despite being shown with only 3 faces, is considered as one of the same variety, and the top and back faces are deemed as invisible. Each face has a different crown as per its iconographic prescriptions. This sculpture has been sculpted on the south wall of the cave along with the sculpture of Ardhanarishwara and the Gangadhara panel. Elephanta sculptures are known for their remarkable qualities of surface smoothness, alongness and rhythmic movement. Their composition is very complex. The iconographic arrangement of this cave is replicated in cave number 29 at Ellora. Thank you.